The Baltimore Ravens fall back to 500 with a brutal loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, and they ruined all of Baltimore's Thanksgiving in the process.
And this is Sam, host of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, and host of the Ravens Talk podcast as well. Ravens offense looks terrible. I mean, they lose against a terrible Bengals defense. Touch on that and more here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Welcome in to the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. I am Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens, taking the driver's seat on this one on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We still have Sam and Joku, though, here with us from, of course, the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, as well as the Ravens Talk podcast. And Kadri Ismail, former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion, is here with us as well. Although we get picture Q tonight for those watching in video form, not face Q, but we still get to see Q's face nonetheless. We're talking under unfortunate circumstances as the Ravens lose to the Bengals by the final score of 32-14. And honestly, it didn't even feel that close with how the Ravens offense performed on Thursday night. So I hope you enjoyed all of your family and friends and food before this game, because the Ravens certainly ruined Thanksgiving, at least the night of Thanksgiving, for all of the Baltimore Ravens. Thankful. Again, want to thank everybody for being here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Again, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. And want to tell everyone that today's Locked On Ravens Squad Show is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, guys. That was certainly something. We all had to witness a football game tonight. I wish I didn't have to have witnessed that football game for the Ravens, because the offense was just absolutely putrid. Lamar Jackson struggles. The offensive line struggles. Play calling was questionable at times. Sam, let's start it here. What are your main takeaways from what you saw from the offense tonight, knowing that what we've seen from the offense in the previous 2 weeks wasn't all that good either?
Yeah, it just tells me that this is not a fluke. The Ravens offense is in a bit of a dry spell. They're suffering. We don't know what the reason is. We can point to the offensive line. We can point to coaching. We can point to Lamar Jackson. It's probably all three of those things. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be any help on the horizon, because this Bengals defense, as we mentioned in previous weeks, is the worst we've ever seen. DVOA-wise, it might be the worst in the history of football. And they found a way to just put 14 points on the board. There are circumstances for that, but the fact of the matter is you got to put points on the board to win in this league. We know Joe Burrow was going to come back, so he was going to put points on the board. The defense held okay, against Joe Burrow, even though I thought he'd be a little rusty coming back. And we saw some of that rust in the first half, but in the second half, he just came in and did what he had to do. And the Ravens offense, led by Lamar Jackson, failed to meet up to the task.
You talk about rust. You talk about crazy. You talk about missed opportunity. A home game, you have your home crowd. You have your decked out purple color rush on. Everything just says, hey, this is your game where you take control of your division. You assert yourself as a legit playoff contender, and you blow it. And there's no two ways about it. Lamar Jackson blew the game. I think the offense in general blew the game. I think the offensive line still continues to give us a little bit of a tease and a tester of like, oh, wow, we can play. Okay, no, we can't. And again, I think the abject failure of the coaching staff to look at what needs to be corrected, whomever is in charge of helping Lamar hold himself in a better light when it comes to his execution. And that seems to be the theme that he likes to continue to say, just got to execute better. Okay, well, who's helping you execute? And what is it that you're doing wrong? Because the throws that he had tonight, and then again, it wasn't all on him when it comes to an Isaiah Likely fumble. Literally should have been a touchdown, but that's on him for messing up. That's not a Lamar Jackson thing. But you look at even, Zay Flowers late in the game, that's a fumble that, that's not on Lamar. That's on him. However, when you do talk about the turnovers that Lamar had, those are clearly smack dab in the middle of poor execution. And what does that mean to correct it? What does it mean when you have, for the second week in a row, a wide open receiver down the football field and you overthrow him? What does it mean when you're just not accurate on simple throws that, yeah, the Jets defense didn't look great. No, the Bengals defense didn't look great, but yet at the same time, when they play you, they seem to rise up and now they look like world beaters. It just doesn't make any sense. And to have it on a grand stage like this, boy, you just, what a missed opportunity.
Definitely a missed opportunity. And this is the worst type of loss that you can have. I mean, this is divisional loss. And to me, the only path to making this postseason, we've all talked about that, the three of us on this show, where, after having lost a tiebreaker to the Bills and the Chiefs and the Texans, and now you've lost it to the Bengals as well, who are trying to fight their way back into the playoff positioning. It's a really bad spot to be in. And look, after tonight, the Bengals only have two more losses than the Ravens do. So, I mean, you put it in that perspective and you're like, whoa, a little closer than you might think. So it was a huge missed opportunity. I completely agree. But, when you look at this game, Sam talked about it with how bad this Bengals defense is. And you're right. I've been screaming to anyone who would listen about how bad this Bengals defense has been over the course of this season. And I continued to do that over the course of the game because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because the phrase I was using all week was like, if not now, when? If not now, when? Against this defense, no Trey Hendrickson in this game for them, Cam Taylor-Britt done for the season. And you're kind of wondering, like, all right, well, now is the offense finally going to get back on track? And the Bengals defense coming into week 13, 31st in rush yards allowed, 32nd in points allowed, 32nd in yards allowed, 32nd in pass yards allowed, 32nd in points per drive, 32nd in yards per drive. I could go on. Like, it's a terrible, horrible defense. So I'm at a loss for words still. And Q, I'm wondering your thoughts, continuing on with Lamar Jackson, from what you saw tonight, because we saw like that vintage Lamar play to Isaiah Likely. We saw him get to the outside a couple of times. Also, we saw him not be able to do that a couple of times. But it felt to me like the Bengals also just like weren't respecting his ability to run the ball. There was that Rasheen Ali play where the defense sold out to stop Rasheen Ali on a read option and let Lamar Jackson run it to the outside. We also saw the Bengals use some cover zero and some heavy blitzes against Lamar Jackson consecutively, and that seemed to have effect on him. So for you, watching him in this game and seeing how he was moving around and how he was throwing, because we also saw him, sail throws to Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. And yes, that Zay Flowers touchdown was taken off of the board, the Isaiah Likely fumble, like the whole 9 yards. But how much of this for you is the Lamar Jackson problem, and how much of it is like, okay, well, it's on the offensive line and it's on the play calling? How much blame would you give Lamar Jackson for this?
Yeah, I mean, if we had to do percentages, I would say that the entire year, the majority of the percentage of the offensive issues, it's the offensive line. You see Lamar, we talk about it as, Raven, people who've watched the Ravens over the years consistently, we've seen how Lamar has overcome bad play. We've seen where when the play is of the offensive line really good, that it makes him look even that much better, because he would either have A, time to run, or B, he's getting into the second level and he's not being touched. So therefore, he's being able to accelerate and make guys miss and just be spectacular. Without that, you don't have a strong, consistent run game. Without that, you don't have a strong, consistent protection plan when it comes to allowing things to develop down the football field. The thing is, like all those points that you pointed out, the inconsistency of Lamar with his overthrows, like I mean, Zay's throw was pitch and catch, but we even saw it in the Jets game where it's like, okay, well, he'll just get warmed up. Yeah. But he doesn't. And for it to carry over into this game is a concern. It is not one of those scenarios where you just say, it's okay, he'll fix it. No, it's a concern. You've seen it for where this defense is just not that good. And yeah, Rasheen Ali should not be getting all that attention when it comes to who's on the football field and reading your keys and all that. That's the whole point of running plays like that. It's because of his ability and because of his spectacular play that draws the defense, and that's what helps you as an offense, but you're not even seeing that. I thought that cover zero was in the rearview mirror. I thought the all-out blitz and all that was in the rearview mirror. Well, looks like it's still present day. And so percentage-wise, I think, Todd Monken, he's probably sitting there at a loss because, part of the running game flow, the way in which it seems like they can do something, it's when you get the line going in a I won't even call it an outside zone or stretch zone, but it is that inside zone kind of hope and pray. And I'm frustrated that this hope and pray that Daniel Falele or Voorhees, we saw, Emory Jones get in and they took out Voorhees, and I'm like, heck, you might as well go ahead and put in Emory over on the left or on the right side too. Like both left and right, like just keep rotating him in and see what is what, because the offense it's mind boggling to me. The consistently bad offense, and it has been one of a roller coaster ride where we're talking late in this season. And yes, you still have a chance for the playoffs, but as of right now, I don't see this being a playoff team.
Especially on offense, Q. I think on offense, especially. I think I saw some things on defense where, Jamar Chase got his. I think kind of expected that from that offense with Joe Burrow back. But I think overall the defense did their job for the most part, but the Ravens offense kept putting this defense in short yardage situation. Even when during that first fumble, the Ravens were able to hold them to 3, which is amazing. But, it wasn't going to last forever. And this Ravens offense, I think, if you talk about percentage-wise, I think for this game, a large amount of it has to be put on the shoulders of Lamar Jackson. He caused the turnovers, which made this offense have to play from behind, which took them away from the running game, which took Derrick Henry out of it, which took Keith Mitchell out of it. So more of the load was put on Lamar Jackson. He just didn't answer the call, in my opinion. Those missed targets you mentioned, those wide open passes to Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, and even some to Tess Walker as well that I saw. All of that is something that Lamar Jackson usually doesn't, falter on, especially now when every game feels like a postseason matchup. This felt like a playoff game. It felt like eerily similar to the divisional round against the Bills last year, and even in some regards, the 2023 AFC Championship game, but more so the divisional round where the turnovers were costing yet again. The defense for the Bengals stepped up, didn't allow this offense to get going. We always thought, even in the fourth quarter, I thought, okay, well, the Ravens are down 2 scores, but this offense still is going up against the worst defense in football. Surely they're going to be able to come back. And you saw attempts, but turnovers kill. You can't win with 5 turnovers. There's nobody's going to win. Not the AFC Championship, Kansas City Chiefs from 2 years ago, not the Denver Broncos of 2013. No one's going to win with 5 turnovers, especially not offense with so many holes that the Baltimore Ravens have.
Yeah, 5 turnovers against that defense is just unbelievable. And I think that, it's okay to say that Lamar Jackson did not perform well in this game. I think, honestly, this is the most blame I'd put on Lamar Jackson for a Ravens loss this season, maybe in a long time, honestly, because, we know Lamar is a very low mistake player. And even when he does struggle over the course of games, and sometimes the stat lines look like he struggles, but in reality, he's just that efficient. So to go like 14 of 18 for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns, the Ravens win by like 30 points. Like, oh, yeah, that's just Lamar Jackson being efficient. But over these last 3 weeks, we've seen increasingly concerning trends. But I'm going to say this. In no way, shape, or form is it all Lamar Jackson's fault here. Of course, he deserves blame, just like the offensive line deserves blame, just like Todd Monken deserves blame, just like John Harbaugh. Everybody is a piece of this puzzle here. And so I think that this started, like Q, you said, the majority of this season has been on the offensive line. A lot of it has. And I think the Ravens might be in this situation because of their offensive line where Lamar is banged up and hurt because his offensive line hasn't been able to block for him the whole season. He's gotten banged up, and now we're in this situation where, yeah, Lamar is not playing well, and some of those throws sailing high over guys, and he had some good ones, again, like the vintage Lamar moment. He had that throw to Tez, which Tez ended up dropping and just couldn't survive the ground. Like, he had some throws, but this was one of the more mistake-laden games I've seen Lamar play in a really, really long time. But again, like, Lamar didn't cause Isaiah Likely to fumble on that end zone play. Like, Lamar didn't have the refs call OPI on Zay Flowers, which was just super. We saw Jamar Chase do more than that in this game and not get called for it, which was just crazy. I know, Q, you were probably going crazy with that call because I know you as a former wideout. If you had gotten called on that, I'm sure you would have been like, man, what are you talking about? So it's been a really rough couple of weeks for this offense. And, you just have to hope this mini bye heals Lamar Jackson faster than anybody's ever healed in the history of sports. But, it's going to be interesting to see how much that extra, 4 or 5 days will do for him moving forward. Coming up in the second part of the show, we will talk a little bit more about the offensive line because, again, there's plenty to blame to go around there. How did they look? How did they perform? We'll talk about that and a lot more coming up here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And for me, I'm a big Denver Nuggets guy. And right now, over on FanDuel, their NBA championship odds are the second best at plus 700. The only team that has better odds than them is the Thunder, the defending champs you got plus 140 there. So I like what Denver's doing this year. I like that number over on FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Moving along, Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Kevin Oestreicher, and we got Sam Njoku, and we got Kadri Ismail. We're all rocking out here, unfortunately, after a Ravens loss because the Ravens just wanted to go ahead and ruin Thanksgiving for everybody. So we have to talk about them ruining Thanksgiving here. We're here twice per week on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Usually our shows are on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course after games, which we're doing here. We'll be back on Monday, right, guys? I think we're doing a Monday show this week, and then we'll have the post. We'll have Monday, Wednesday this week. So the Thursday games just mess everything up. But we'll have Monday, Wednesday this week, followed by the Steelers Instant Reaction show coming up next Sunday. So appreciate everybody for being here. Again, we have the Locked On Ravens regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Time, and so much other daily Ravens content and coverage here for you on Locked On Ravens. But guys, we've talked about Lamar Jackson. We'll certainly get back to him as well, and we'll honestly probably get back to him in this conversation. But there has been mention of it here already. The Ravens did make a change on the offensive line throughout the course of this game, rotating. That's something we all talked about over the course of this week. Emory Jones did get the nod for Andrew Voorhees in a rotation. And Sam, you had talked about it with me where Jones was getting those reps at the left guard spot where everybody was like, Falele. Well, actually, it was Voorhees who got him. So for you, Sam, how pleased or not pleased were you with Emory Jones? He had that holding penalty, but I just, with the rotation, did you think it threw him and Voorhees off? Did you think it worked? Like, what was your overall thoughts?
I don't know. It's so hard to really look at it. The holding call was, took out the 6-yard gain by Derrick Henry. But overall, I thought it's nice to see him get looks. Now, he didn't look absolutely fantastic. He didn't look like a Hall of Famer, but it does show that the Ravens are tinkering with the idea of moving him to the guard spot. I don't know if the left guard spot's the right move for him or the right guard spot. I think he played right tackle in college. I'm not sure if it's different for the left or right side. Whatever he's comfortable with, I guess the left guard spot is what they're pushing him towards. But regardless, I think they need to do something to make a change here. Is it going to be the change that saves the season for the Ravens? I'm not sure. I didn't see anything in this contest to make me believe that it's going to be something that's going to change something. But it is a step in the right direction that they're going to actually take a look at this guy, see what he looks like, see if he can make something happen for this offensive line. Obviously, whatever they're doing right now is not working. Maybe they saw enough because he did go in for a little bit, and then they took him back out for Voorhees. So not sure what the plan is here for the Ravens is. Maybe saw what he looked like, and if he looked the part, they keep it in. Maybe they decided not to. Not sure, but overall, I think that it is a step in the right direction. We just have to wait and see how it goes. I know it's not going to be the last we see of Emory Jones this season, obviously. If they put him in during a crucial Bengals game, I'm sure we'll see him against the Steelers. We'll see how he looks like next week.
I mean, they hinted towards that for weeks, and we've all been talking about how the offensive line something needs to give, and Lamar can't continue to just take different hits or Derrick Henry, the running game, be just so, disjointed, because in one play you're getting a positive gain, then the next play or the next 5 plays you're getting either a tackle for loss or minimal gain at all, and next thing you know, the punt team is out. So yeah, it was good to see Emory Jones out there. It was good that he got some playing time and some action, especially after missing all of camp and all of the offseason. I think it goes to show you, for his dedication and getting himself out there, it really showed that, okay, good, there's some seriousness and some talent out there, and some opportunity that he's willing to push himself towards. So kudos to that. But again, the offensive line as a whole, and in particular at the guard spot, still needs a lot of work, and especially when you're talking about 32nd ranked defense, and you weren't able to, and it's so funny too, because even after the game, in the post game, oh, it's a week-to-week league, oh, it's just football, oh, all the cliches, but there's a reason why every single week the Ravens, or I should say the Bengals, were defensively so horrible. It's because of the way they've played and the way they've not been able to either get off the field or make the necessary moves. And now all of a sudden you go up against the Ravens and you are starting to make those plays, and boy, they picked the perfect time to peak and to show that, hey, look, we're not as bad as everybody says we are. They picked the wrong time. Okay. My apple pie just got spoiled, and I'm just sitting here looking at the doggone stale, nasty cornbread. And then again, when you look at the overall picture of the doggone turkey, it's so dry. My goodness, man. Like, whoo, the water doesn't do anything to quench the thirst that I have, because I'm trying to swallow this doggone loss of the Bengals game that should not have been.
Yeah, and you see all the Bengals players eating turkey legs on your home turf and celebrating, and it's just another slap in the face. So after you get slapped in the face 10 billion times, it feels like, watching that offense play. And I'm curious, guys, your thoughts on the lack of run game that we saw, despite it being pretty successful, I thought, over the course of the game. I mean, there were obviously some plays that got stuffed up, but you just look at the raw box score stats, Henry with his long touchdown, and Keaton, he got involved with his as well. Ravens averaged 5.6 yards per carry, but only ran the ball 22 times. And I think 3 of those were Rasheen Ali right at the end of the game on that final drive. So really like 19, 18 carries, when I thought that, especially in like that middle part of the game, Derrick Henry was ripping off runs, but then there was like one point where in the first half, we didn't see Derrick Henry for like 3 straight possessions or something. I mean, Hugh, what did you think of that? Did you think the Ravens abandoned the run game? Did you think they did okay? How'd you like the play calling in this one?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I didn't really think the run game was abandoned so much as the flow of the game dictated, hey, we need to get back in the game. It just seemed like McPherson was kicking his field goals. Okay, at some point in time, there's going to be a big play. Oh, okay, there's some good runs. All right, well, here we go. And you're off the field because Lamar couldn't hit a wide open Zay Flowers on 3rd down. we're off the field again because, Lamar tried to scramble around and wasn't able to get the first down. And so that, to me, I think stalled out the running game more than the running game, stalled itself out, if you will. I think it was a matter of lack of rhythm for this offense more than anything. Because, yes, we did see, some big plays. We did see the 31-yarder that, Lamar was spectacular again. And then, you kind of come back, get a couple of run plays, and then you take a shot into the end zone. Of course, Isaiah likely fumbles. But then you look at, all right, we're looking at them about to start okay, Lamar, you fumbled the ball again. All right. Okay. So more than anything, the rhythm of the game, rather than it was, they abandoned the run and it was working, and therefore it's Todd Monken. More along the lines of, no, it was the Bengals defense being opportunistic when they needed to, and the Ravens just their lack of finish and just the mistakes that were made that cost them this game, and that's where I see it from a running game aspect of things.
Yeah, Q, I'm right there with you. I think it was the turnovers. The turnovers really held this team back. I'm sure the game plan going into this game was, we're going to use the pass early on to kind of push them back, and then we're going to use the run the rest of the game. They can't stop the run. We knew that going in, the Ravens were going to run all over the Bengals defense because the Bengals defense was so terrible. But you turn the ball over within your own 5, when you turn the ball over on downs, when you punt the ball consistently because you're not able to connect with your best receivers, and the offense on the other side continues to put points on the board, the flow of the game dictates that you need to start passing it fast and in a hurry to get the ball down the field into the end zone and give yourself a chance to win the football game. That's what the flow of the game was, and that's because, again, turning the football over consistently, not being in rhythm with your weapons, not having the wherewithal to know that you need to get, down the field consistently and effectively as a passer. So it's no surprise that the run game was successful. This Bengals defense is terrible. Don't let anyone tell you differently. I know Kevin's been on that tangent for the last few days, and I'm right there with you. It's true. The stats are the stats. The Bengals defense isn't great, but when you turn the football over, doesn't matter how poor the defense you are facing, you have to, shift gears. You have to throw the football down the field. And when your quarterback doesn't have a protection, doesn't have time to make the throws, and when he does throw the ball, he's throwing it to the other team, you're not going to win many football games. So I think, you want to see the run game going. The next time the Ravens play the Bengals, hopefully less turnovers, more running the ball with Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry, who have both been very effective as runners for the Ravens this season when given the opportunity. But those times are going to be few and far between when you turn the football over consistently the way the Ravens did tonight.
And as we've talked about, one of those turnovers was Isaiah Likely fumbling the ball out of the end zone, who did a little it was almost like, a swim over maneuver, and then tried to extend the ball and obviously got punched out. Again, I had Zay Flowers flashbacks. I was not having fun with that, but Likely he showed the flashes and the potential that I think we've been looking for from him, where 5 for 95, a couple of really nice plays for Likely over the course of this game, but obviously all of it overshadowed by that turnover, which cost the Ravens 6 points and a lot of momentum. Where are we on Isaiah Likely right now? It's been a tough year for him. Obviously got hurt in training camp, and coming back from a foot injury is no easy thing. I want to make that clear. But in a contract year where a lot of people were expecting him to at least be on even terms with Mark Andrews, maybe in terms of production or share or whatnot, it's largely been, at least from the stat perspective, pretty disappointing for Likely. So what do we think, Q? Do we feel like Likely's lost himself some money this season? Is he still a high priority for this Ravens team? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's lost some money. I think he is a high priority, but at the same time, production is production is production. That's your leverage. When you have volume catches, when you have touchdowns or contested catches or clutch moments, then that's going to pique the interest of the general manager. And he's going to be like, well, I need to extend him. When you're just one of the guys and you're middle of the pack, the Jets game, you saw where, he and Lamar weren't able to connect up. But then you go into this game and he and Lamar sort of kind of connected up, but then of course you shoot yourself in the foot by, having a ball knocked out of your hands and at a critical moment that turned the ball over and gave it back to the other team. So while we are looking at it in this regards, they will look at it as, okay, let's see each and every play that he was in and let's evaluate all of it. They all go through it, but in this particular case, when it comes down to the money element of it all, I don't think he's gained much leverage when it comes to now you're guessing on potential, but I promise you, from a Ravens perspective, like they did with Bateman didn't have the leverage, but they knew he was a good player, so they're going to offer him something. And they'll more likely offer Isaiah something, but Isaiah is going to have to really super believe in himself. Like, look, send me somewhere else and let me make my own money. But leverage-wise, that's an option. But leverage-wise, I don't see him gaining any leverage by his play this year.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see what, money he was looking for. I know the Ravens tried to offer him something during this offseason, and he turned it down. So it'd be very interesting to see what it looks like at the end of the season. I still think that from the 3 tight ends, he's probably the one the Ravens are targeting the most. I think Charlie Kolar is another option for the Ravens if they're not able to get something done with Isaiah Likely. But yeah, Isaiah Likely hasn't done himself any favors this year. I think he did bet on himself by not taking that contract in the offseason. And so far he's been wildly disappointing. Now, he did look good. These are the flashes that you've seen from Isaiah Likely in years past in this contest. Of course, the fumble notwithstanding, he did, have some decent plays on the field, but this has been few and far between. He hasn't really shown up. He hasn't really flashed on film this season. So he has 6 games left. He has an opportunity if the Ravens get to the postseason to make a name for himself there. But yeah, right now, if I'm the Ravens, I'm not offering him the money that, these other tight ends, top tier guys are getting. Evan Ingram got a big deal a few years ago. I'm not sure if he's getting that type of money in the offseason unless his performance increases dramatically these last 6 games of the season into the postseason if the Ravens were to get there.
Ingram making an average of $11.5 million per season. Other comparable contracts: Dalton Schultz, $12 million. Jonnu Smith, $12 million. You got Jake Ferguson and Cole Kmet at $12.5. So I'd be curious if it's like that, or is it more like Dawson Knox, who's making 10, Hunter Henry making 9. So a lot of interesting conversations ahead for this Ravens team. But coming up, we'll talk about the defense a little bit on the Locked On Ravens Squad show, because they held on for as long as they could. And then, you can only hold Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in check for so long. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Continuing on the Locked On Ravens Squad show, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku, and Kadri Ismail still here with you. Again, we're about 1:40 in the morning Eastern time. We're late, and we had to watch a loss late into the night, which is never fun. Usually these primetime games, Ravens are so good in primetime games usually that we're all excited after a win. But this, unfortunately, not one of those times. Again, appreciate everybody for being here. The like and subscribe button, video form and audio form. We've talked a lot about the offense. We'll get back to it, but I think we have to talk about the defense for a little bit now too, where, look, they did what they could. I mean, look, in that first half, and Sam, you both have mentioned it a little bit, of like the Ravens offense gifting the Bengals opportunities within the Ravens 5-yard line, 10-yard line, and the red zone. The Bengals go 1 for 6 in the red zone, which is just absolutely unbelievable. Evan McPherson with the 6 field goals, and it felt like the offense was attached because the defense kept them there. They kept the offense within striking distance, where, whether it was big pass breakups from Nate Wiggins, Cal Hamilton, Chidobe Awuzie had another really good game, like everybody seemed to be stepping up in that first half. But then, as I mentioned before we went to the break in the second part of the show, it's like, well, Joe Burrow clearly was rusty in that first half, was trying to figure, he missed some easy throws in my opinion. And then, Jamar Chase started to get it going. They had the Yoshivash touchdown and a couple of other. Ravens actually got lucky on a couple of plays because Mitchell Tinsley had a couple of really important drops in this game that, either were touched. They actually stopped running his route on one of those plays. It would have been a touchdown from Joe Burrow, which was really weird. But Sam, what do you think of the defensive unit for Baltimore in this game? Because you saw so many positives, and they did their best But then it just felt like as the game wore on, the offense was asking too much, and it went awry eventually.
I think one thing I noticed right away is that the Ravens still need to get better help from their pass rush. The Ravens tried to blitz a lot in this contest. I was very nervous about that going into this because, guys like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they're not going to let you get away with blitzing 6 or 7 guys, which is what the Ravens had to do. And sometimes they get just there, and then, Joe Burrow does what Joe Burrow does and finds the open guy. So I think going into this game, I was a little, hesitant to really put the defense on the pedestal that I eventually did put them in, saying that they were, getting back to what they were doing. But that pass rush still needs to get work done, and Jamar Chase must love Marlon Humphrey. I think Jamar Chase needs to get Marlon Humphrey a Rolex something. Every time he's on the field with Marlon Humphrey, he makes a play. So I don't know. I think the defense did overall play good. They were put in a very bad situation. They did very well at the beginning, holding them to 4 field goals to start off. You'd think with the way the defense of the Bengals have played all season that you hold the Bengals offense to 4 field goals, you're up 28-12 going into whatever quarter you are when that field goal gets knocked through the upright. So the defense did their job. I still think that Zach Orr has done a better job of this defense than usual. You see Nate Wiggins left with that foot injury, so that kind of put an opine on things. But I think Chidobe Awuzie is playing lights out football. I think he's like the bright spot on this defense besides Kyle Hamilton, especially in that secondary. But overall, I think the defense came into play. I do expect them to continue this going into Pittsburgh. But when you're playing these high-octane offenses like the Cowboys, like the Bengals, where you have 2 receivers, and remember, T. Higgins didn't even play in this contest, and they were still able to put some points on the board. So Joe Burrow is going to be a problem each and every week you face him. This defense did their best to keep him upright. I think holding this offense to 30-plus points, not a huge victory, but considering the circumstances that got them there, I give them a B+.
I agree with the B+. I can see where the expectations for the Ravens defense, for the way they've been playing lately, the way the Ravens offense has kind of been sputtering, that this was a game that just says, all right, let's just fix stuff and let's just go out there and do it. And yet the script was flipped, and it was the Bengals who were dictating the tempo of the game. Like Joe Burrow, I appreciate the fact that he was rusty, but from a receiver standpoint, I didn't think he was as rusty. Like, he was making some throws. And I was like, okay, homeboy's Joe Burrow. And I, at the same time, am like, man, here's a guy who's missed months, comes back, boom, looks good. Whereas you got Lamar, can't hit your own guy who's wide open, and you've had chemistry with him. So that's where I think I'm a little bit more, all right, I get you, Joe. Good job. Good for you. I think defensively, like secondary, there were some really good, strong plays. I think, what was it? 15 targets that Jamar Chase had. 15 targets. Came up with 7 of them, I believe, is what is it? 7 for a little bit over 100.
Yeah.
And so I think bigger picture wise, they did all right. They did all right. And Tinsley, that dude I'd be so salty if I was his receiver coach. I'm like, bro, you embarrassed the group. You had a chance to go out there, and this game technically, like, Devontae Adams and Tinsley is not in his category, so please don't, think it's, Kadri, it's late at night. You must, something's wrong with you. The tryptophan is taking over, trying to put him in the Devontae Adams. I'm just saying he had a opportunity for the easiest touchdown of his young career, and because he was jogging off the ball and didn't really sprint down the field. But what I'm saying, the comparison with Adams and him is the fact that here is opportunities that you would have against this Ravens defense, and you let the Ravens defense off the hook. Had he made his necessary plays, we might be having a little bit different story to be telling about this Ravens defense.
And we might have a little bit of a different looking Ravens defense over the next couple of weeks. Who knows, depending on how long Nate Wiggins is out or not. John Harbaugh did say it was not a serious thing, so that at least is good, but we know that, Nate left the game, was quickly ruled out with a foot injury. And, we just talked about Isaiah Likely, and now he was coming back from the foot. Now, Harbaugh did say that Wiggins could miss time, but again, not a long-term thing. Did you guys sense a big shift once Nate was declared out? And Q, from your perspective, I mean, look, I think we all know that when a guy is ruled out that quickly after suffering an injury, we saw the tape of him limping down to the locker room. It's never a good thing, but, without us knowing anything, is that an injury that you think is concerning to you, or something that Nate could shake off in a couple of weeks?
Huge concern. He is a finesse, dynamic mover, and that's his strength. So you take that away, and you're going up against some really good football players coming up. That's a huge concern. DK Metcalf and company, they're not.
Oh,
Q, you lost you?
Yeah, might be losing you, Q. Are you there? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. All right. Well, all right. Sam, what you go? What do you have?
You guys got me?
We got you now.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. You're back. You're back.
I was like, mother of pearl, my phone did a Nate Wiggins on you.
Oh, no.
Man.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Yes. All right. Well, we got your back. You continue. What were you saying? Metcalf and all that?
Yeah. Well, my point is that you're going to be going up against a guy like a Metcalf, and while he's a little bit more of a physical receiver, some of Pittsburgh's skill sets and other guys are a little bit more craftier, and that's where Nate Wiggins comes in. And so, as you see, then you got to go back to Cincy. And I think without Nate, that's going to be a issue. You might very well get T. Higgins back off the concussion protocol. That's an issue. Then you're talking about, going up against a Packers team, a Patriots team. Those are some good football teams. And so mentally, that injury can absolutely play an effect or have an effect on the way he plays his style of football.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous if Nate Wiggins isn't able to play. I think we can afford to lose him for the Steelers game because the Steelers, opposite DK Metcalf, don't really have anyone to throw the football to. But then you're right back in Cincinnati for another matchup against the Bengals, who just torched you on Thanksgiving in primetime television. You get T. Higgins back most likely. You got Jamar Chase, who seemingly can't be stopped whenever this matchup happens. So, yeah, that Nate Wiggins injury is of huge concern. And then you mentioned the Packers and Patriots sandwiched in between the next matchup with the Steelers in January. You might not win another game this year without Nate Wiggins out there. So that is a very real possibility for this defense. Of course, I think overall this defense will have what it takes to get it together because, again, if they're going to blitz to get pass rushing pressure on the QB, they're not going to get it done against Joe Burrow. But I think the other QBs left on their schedule are, they're not really, I won't say world beaters. Jordan Love is a threat, and Drake May has shown flashes, but I think they haven't seen what Joe Burrow has seen. They're not as cerebral as Joe Burrow is. So maybe you can mask the loss of Nate Wiggins. But that Cincinnati Bengals matchup after the Steelers matchup is going to loom large for this unit. Hopefully Nate Wiggins is back for that contest. If not, could be dicey.
Yeah, they're going to need to have guys step up, and you do have to see all these good receivers coming up. And Nate has flashed a lot over the course of his year plus in the NFL, and losing any guy like that is going to be really tough on your defense, especially because his coverability allows you to work through some of your pass rushing woes. But even still, like, this kind of felt like in the Bengals offensive line, it's been a major concern point in recent seasons. Actually, it's not too bad this season. So, it felt like Joe Burrow, and we actually saw, I think, the first half stats where it was a season low in terms of pressure rate that the Bengals had given up. At least it was something like that I saw on the broadcast. So losing Wiggins for any amount of time is certainly a tough loss. Harbaugh also saying Chandler Martin suffered a significant knee injury, so they lose Jay Higgins and Chandler Martin, which is tough for the special teams unit. He'd been playing well. So lots of things that the Ravens need to figure out in terms of who's going to be next up. And that's how you have to just do it. It's a next man up mentality there for this team. But coming up in the final part of the Lockdown Ravens squad show, we'll be continuing to talk about this game and how the Ravens can recover and what we need to see from this offense in particular and the team in general moving forward. So stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Rounding things out here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam and Joe Kadri, Ismail. Guys, I think that the way that we have to look at this Ravens loss is that this has to be the lowest point that they've been this season in terms of offense. And we've just seen such a pendulum swing from what it was early in the season to where it was the offense that was putting up all the points early. And then the defense was the one that was struggling. We're like, all right, this defense needs to figure it out. And now it's just swung all the way to the other side of things. There's nearly no middle ground here. It feels like we haven't had a game like, 2023 Lions where they just blew the doors off of them, or like that Seattle game. Like, feels like, oh, look, the defense is playing so great, but the offense is the reason you lose the game early in the season. Oh, look at the offense putting up 40 on the Bills. Oh, well, the defense gives up 41. It's like we can never have that just solid all around game. That's obviously a better formula for success here. So I'm wondering with where they have 5 games left in their season and 5 games left on their schedule. A stat that I want to throw out here to you guys, and Q, I know this is probably going to make your skin crawl as a former receiver, but we all, for those who are watching and listening, we all had about 6 less yards. In fact, exactly 6 less yards than Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman combined in this game. Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, 2 receptions for 6 yards combined between the two of them. Now, there is context, obviously, with Zay Flowers, the OPI call that, ended up resulting in the non-touchdown. Obviously, Lamar had some throws to them that they were open but didn't deliver on. So here, when you hear your top 2 receivers go 2 for 6, 2 receptions for 6 yards in this game, I mean, what's your reaction to that, all things considered?
Mother of pearl. Like, wow, what are we doing? This is just unacceptable. If I am Rashad Bateman, I would be livid. And they did put in Tez Walker a bunch. He played a lot of snaps. I think that D-Hop had, how many catches and targets did he have?
Who? Zay? You said?
No. D-Hop.
Oh, D-Hop. D-Hop had 3 targets, 2 catches for 25 yards.
Okay, so he took some of those catches away as well. So you got Tez and D-Hop kind of combining over on the X-receiver side. So that's taking Bateman's flow. But then you also add in Lamar and some of the pressures that he had. So he wasn't able to get the ball out to Bateman. Then he had a wide open opportunity. He just overthrew Bateman. I look at, Zay, and Zay, that was all on him. I think that, he had the one. It was, I'm not going to say it was a just flat out drop, but it was a ball that should have been caught while it was contested, and they needed it. I think at the same time, some of the other plays that he could have, should have, would have, he didn't come up with. And then obviously, Lamar just not being on point with him. But yes, as a group and as a tandem, like I'm looking at you looking at me, and we looking at each other like, dang, there was a lot of missed opportunity out there. There was so much ball that should have been out there for us to take. And then collectively as a receiving core, like if you had to grade it, I would grade it a D. And that's sad because this is not a D graded group. Tez Walker has come up with so many of those contested catches. Tez has come up with so many great, strong catches. I know that one that, Lamar threw to him, it was high and, but you had an opportunity to make that play. I know the one should have been technically defensive pass interference. The guy got his hands in there, but you had it solid and couldn't survive both the defenders, defensive pass interference, nor the defenders having his hand in there still, plus surviving the ground for the catch. So as a group, D. As two of the tandem. I'm looking at each other, and you got to just say you have a failing grade. Both guys they just didn't show up.
Sure didn't. I wish they did. And some of it's on the receiving core, as you mentioned. Some of it's on Lamar. He just wasn't hitting his targets. And some of it's on Todd Monken not setting up plays enough to let those guys shine. But, it is unfortunate. 2 catches for 6 yards is kind of crazy, especially considering what these guys have meant. You just signed Bateman to an extension, and you're assuming that the Ravens and Zay Flowers are going to come to terms with an agreement sooner rather than later. If not, they're going to have a huge hole on the receiving core group. But I just don't know. It was a wonky game from Lamar, and that offensive line definitely did him no favors. But again, this is the same offensive line that's been here all season. This is the same offensive line for the most part that was there last season. This was the offensive line that was there when the Ravens put up 40+ points on the Bills and continue to put 30+ points on the Chiefs and the Lions. So this isn't an offensive line that get some blame, yes, but it's not all on the offensive line. It's Lamar Jackson. Maybe he's hurt, but Joe Burrow wasn't 100% in that contest either. I'm sure that toe was still bothering him. He still went out there and put on a show. So Lamar Jackson needs to find it within himself to get with his coaching staff, Todd Monken, T. Martin, whoever, John Harbaugh, and get it together. You got 5 games left, and time is running out. You're going to be tied with the Steelers most likely in the AFC North because you assume the Bills beat the Steelers on Sunday. If not, still that Pittsburgh Steelers-Ravens game, that first matchup, huge. And Kevin, you pointed to it, that last game of the season most likely will decide the division one way or another. That's if the Ravens can somehow split between the Patriots and the Packers, hopefully beat both of them and potentially split with the Bengals. Regardless, Lamar Jackson needs to play better. The receivers need to get open. They did get open in some regards, but they need to start making catches. And if this unit doesn't get their act together, it doesn't matter how great the defense is, they're not going to make it far in the playoffs.
One more note with the receiving group is the Ravens actually deactivated Tylan Wallace for this game, which I thought was interesting. And Peebles gets a call here. He was inactive for a while, and so they went a bit heavier on the D-line in this one. And Carl Lawson finally got called up after like a month of what's going on with Carl Lawson. The Jabbo is the one that gets the inactive there. But were you guys surprised with Tylan Wallace being inactive, considering some of the stuff he brings on offense? I mean, he hasn't got a lot of opportunities there, but on special teams, he seems like just a solid playmaker. But again, the opportunities haven't necessarily been there.
Well, I am. And yeah, I think the drop that he had in the Jets game, like in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to file that one away. And you saw Tez Walker get more love. I think Tez is a more explosive down the field player. I think, though, that Tylan is a better special teams player. However, I know that when it came to locking up the gunner for the Bengals, Tez Walker was doing his thing. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, maybe Tez is feeling like, hey, I'm back, I'm healthier, and I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm not going to take the opportunities that I'm given for granted. And so you had a drop, and then you also had a huge catch, and that one was a 30-yarder. So then you go into this Bengals game, and I think for the Ravens staff, it was like, all right, we'll give Tez a go, and we'll just go ahead and shut down the play of Tylan.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Tylan Wallace, I was a little surprised by it, but I think that the Ravens just this Bengals defense isn't going to be much of an issue. Let's get these guys some burn. Let's get them some playing time. Let's get Tez Walker active. If he's not as good as Tylan Wallace in special teams, then we can surely miss what Tylan Wallace will bring, because we assume the Ravens offense will dominate this defense, and that's just not the way it went down. I think Tez Walker's ceiling is higher, as Q mentioned, for this offense in general. You're going to need to give him some more looks. He is the downfield threat that the Ravens, I think, need and will likely need going forward. I know Rashad Bateman kind of is that deep threat, but for whatever reason, Lamar and Rashad still don't have the connection that we assumed they would have at this time. I think him and Tez Walker, giving him that deep threat, something that the Chiefs have a Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, they can get that with a taller version of Tez Walker down the field. So I'm okay with the move. I just thought that, considering the magic that Tylan Wallace has had in previous games, you don't want to take that juju away from the offense. Maybe he would have helped, maybe he wouldn't have, but it was something that I definitely did consider going into this game.
Yeah, it was some. not necessarily like overly shocked about it, but still something that was like, well, you don't really see that with Tylen, where he's usually active. We know the Ravens value that special teams ability, but I tend to agree with both of you guys, where Tez has the higher upside, and they tried to get him involved and it didn't necessarily work. One thing when looking at it, the era for the Ravens of time of possession, especially under Greg Roman, it's long gone. That was something I think we all talked about for the entire, because it was like, oh, the Ravens held the ball for like 35 minutes and look at all this dominating time of possession. Well, it was a storyline in this one. The Bengals held the ball for 38 minutes and 46 seconds, nearly 40 minutes of action. The Ravens only for 21-14. Just felt like, again, there was no rhythm, no consistency. And the Bengals, they had 19 third down out. The Bengals went 8 of 19 on third down. They ran 23 more plays than Baltimore. I mean, how big of a factor was that in this game, where, again, we don't really talk about like time of possession as much anymore, but Sam, it really felt like it was a big storyline in this one.
It was everything. I mean, it was the entirety of the game. A lot of that time of possession was, of course, because of the turnover battle. But overall, yeah, you took the ball away from the Ravens offense, who, you're going up against. Your defense is not great. Giving Joe Burrow time to make those plays down the field. Every play counts for this offense that the Bengals has. So, of course, getting better time of possession is going to help. But, yeah, it was literally the game. And then it helped that every time the Ravens did get the ball, they did turn the football over, or they did miss a target down the football field. So, yeah, that turnover, the time of possession battle was crucial. I didn't think it would mean that much in this contest because, again, I just thought the Ravens offense would come to play. But in most contests for this football team, especially because their run game has suffered so much, I've preached that time of possession and field position battle will be the name of the game. The Ravens, I think they got caught inside their own two a lot of times in this contest because of, the turnover on downs that sometimes the Bengals had, or the turnover late in the game where we thought, okay, maybe the Ravens have a chance here after that forced fumble from Travis Jones to come back. The Ravens going to have great field possession in this game, but the time of possession is key, and I'll keep stressing it. The turnovers did not help. It was the turnovers that caused the time of possession. It was the lack of consistency from the offense that caused it, and when you have all that mixed together, you're going to lose pretty badly, especially in primetime television.
You nailed it. It's the lack of the consistency. It's the lack of holding on to the football and recognizing the urgency of it. It's the opposing team taking advantage of your mistakes. Heck, look at the Jets. The Jets was marching down the football field. Breece Hall fumbles the ball, gets stripped, I should say, from Marlon Humphrey, and that was a clutch turnover. And you saw how that momentum just totally deflated that team and that opportunity that they thought they had. So you go into this game, this is professional football. The same thing you've done and inflicted upon others can be done to you, and that's exactly what happened. And it's just, I don't know what to say when it comes to this year and why they look so just bootleg at times, and it's mind-boggling. They were supposed to be like the juggernaut of the North and the AFC, and but I will say this. I mean, even looking at the NFL as the totality and the AFC specifically, you're seeing that there's this changing of the guard, that, that shift, if you will, whether it be looking at the Colts rise, you'll see the Broncos rise, you'll see the way in which the Patriots have, kind of had a rebirth, if you will, with Vrabel at the helm. It's just such a wonky, weird year in the NFL. The usual suspects, like the Ravens, are not doing what we thought they would be doing.
Yeah, weird is an understatement. I'm right there with you, Q. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, and Ravens unfortunately just don't look like the Ravens. It's just not Ravens football that we're watching right now, at least from what we've been accustomed to on the offensive side of the ball with Lamar Jackson. Defense held up as long as they could, but just ended up not being able to get the job done in the second half because they were forced to be on the field for so long is one of the main reasons there. But Ravens will have a mini bye to bounce back. And we're going to take a mini break here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We'll be back on Monday, and then we'll have our normal Wednesday program as we get back into the swing of things to round out the season here. So that's all we have for you today. For Sam Njoku and Kadri Smile, I am Kevin Oestreicher. Be sure on the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form. You can follow along and subscribe in audio form. See you right back here soon on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.